Hello and welcome back to episode 8 of Showmakers. Today we have Jared and Jacob from Wisecrack. You may know them from their Thug Notes series, Earthling Cinema, and 8-Bit Philosophy. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys.
Hello.
Hi. So, do you think you guys can start out by telling us since this is actually the first time we have two different people on the podcast, can you tell us like your different roles at Wisecrack?
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm essentially the head of content, so that means that I'm pretty much, overseeing everything that goes on the YouTube channel, heavy editing, working with writers, directing the episodes, training directors, overseeing angles, overseeing research, doing research. And basically everything you see on the channel is filtered through me at some point or another. And yeah. This is Jared, by the way. This is the voice of Jared.
Right, and this is Jacob. And I kind of work with Jared as the producer, and we have another team. We have a great producer, Emily, who's on the podcast helping out here today. But we kind of bring these scripts to life. So we've got a really great script, really well-researched project, whether it be on Thug Notes or 8-Bit Philosophy or Earthling Cinema or now Wisecrack Edition, taking the great scripts and bringing them to video form into like a really great entertaining piece of asset that we can kind of put on the YouTube channel. So I'm kind of helping mostly on the production side.
And I guess we didn't really go over this, but what's kind of your elevator pitch for what Wisecrack is?
We look at Wisecrack as like the smart and funny brand. It's the brand that's delivering really insightful, interesting information in a new, interesting way, in a fresh take, in an entertaining way. So again, it's like through Wisecrack, this is the only place you're going to be able to see a literary gangster teaching about great works of literature, or an awkward alien in the future exploring great movies, or we're going to use video game graphics to teach about philosophy concepts. So we're constantly trying to create stuff that's kind of edgy, bold, unusual, and an interesting approach to teaching all sorts of interesting topics. And today, really mostly on philosophy, history, literature, sort of the humanities is where we've been focused for a long time, and exploring these great ideas, but through pop culture and media, so through movies and TV shows and video games, etc.
I was on the set for Thug Notes. I think it was the It episode, and this was like a really eye-opening experience for me, seeing that side of YouTube where you're in a big production studio and everything else. How was it? How did you get involved in all that? Were you experienced in film production and everything beforehand, or was this a kind of learning as you go along type thing, as it is with many YouTubers?
So I actually, my background is, I went to film school. I mean, I originally moved out here to Los Angeles to pursue being a filmmaker, making feature films. So yeah, I mean, my training is in production, is in, screenwriting, is in, that stuff of that nature. So yeah, like that's kind of the second nature stuff to me. Hollywood is we live in a very strange time. And I think for my graduating class coming out here, Hollywood being, with aspirations to be a filmmaker, perhaps an independent filmmaker, it was a time of change. It was a time of huge, it was a tumultuous time. And so that's how I kind of found my transition into digital media, because, well, I could talk this entire time about, Hollywood and, they're basically the state of Hollywood and why I think digital media is a much more exciting space. But to answer your question, I'm essentially a filmmaker turned YouTuber.
You could give us a brief on why you think YouTube is better than Hollywood. I think that would be interesting.
Well, I said digital media, not YouTube. No, I
Yeah,
don't want to throw shade at Google. They're probably listening right now. Well, gosh. So, I mean, as you guys know, fewer movies are being made. The new business model for movies, the only way that movies are still able to be made is that you make very few movies that are, cost hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, that are all based on pre-existing IP. And basically, the independent film market is essentially it's like a roulette table for rich people. Like, the amount of independent films that make money are so few and far between. Like, I mean, literally, it's like winning the lottery. And it can take 10 years to get an independent film off the ground, to raise money for it, to get it through, see it through production. And, one of the reasons, for Jacob and I, we need to continue to be busy. We always have to be busy. And one of the biggest blessings of YouTube is that, you work for a couple weeks on a video, you upload it, you have a deadline, and then it's done, you move on. And if it's not good, well, then, you're moving on to the next one. But can you imagine working 10 years on just one film that, and then if that's bad, if a YouTube video is bad or underperforms, oh no, whatever, we lost a couple weeks. But with a movie, you lose a decade of your life and it could end up being a catastrophe because making a movie is the hardest thing in the world. I really do believe that. And so, yeah, basically, to be overly I don't know. I don't even think this is overly pessimistic. I think this is realistic. You even hear this being echoed by Martin Scorsese in a recent article, is that cinema is on its way out. It's dying. Basically, what we have as cinema now is essentially just like roller coaster rides. We have these, high budget spectacle experiences, these events that we go out to. But, it's so rare that you'll see just a good narrative being put out there. So, I just realized that, I know people out here in Hollywood, some of my friends are still part of this film school crew and, people who are still trying to make a name, making movies, being a director, following their dream to make good cinema. And the goal, the gold mine for them, the best possible case scenario is that they make an independent movie, it loses money, but it ends up being good. And then they get hired to make the next Star Wars movie or the next Marvel movie. But the way those things are made now, these movies are made essentially by committee. There's a recent story that one of these movies, the director walked in and the entire movie was already digitally pre-visualized, which essentially means sometimes studios will actually create the entire movie in very archaic motion graphics, shot per shot. And basically they just hire the director almost like a blue collar worker, just all right, here's the movie, go out there and direct people to make it. And I'm saying to myself, if that's the best case scenario, that's the best way that you can make a living making movies, then, I just was born at the wrong time. I should have been born in the 70s if I wanted to make movies. So sorry, that was really long and not short.
No, it was good. It was interesting.
What is the solution for digital media then? If, I don't know, you threw a slight shade at Google/YouTube. So what's a better solution for digital media?
Oh man, you guys are going to get me in trouble. Look, I don't know if maybe you guys agree or disagree, but Google has a virtual monopoly on online video, and I don't think that that's healthy for any kind of environment.
No. It's always good to have competition there forcing you to improve your product, but I do think YouTube does try to improve, at least recently, because they're getting so much fire from all angles for the mess ups they have made, but it would be good to have a bit more competition there.
But is there not merit for there being one place where you can go for online video?
I guess. In the same way that I suppose there's merit for there only being one person on the ballot when you're voting for president, because then, you get to just make a choice. But yeah, Google can fuck with us however they want. If they decide that, such and such idea is, we want to de-emphasize this, or, if people's content are based on, adult themes, and then all of a sudden they decide that adult themes are not brand friendly, they can just press a button and, your whole business goes to shit. And, there is no alternative for us to, or for anyone to take their content somewhere else and, and continue on their business. Basically, we are at the whim of Google. And, and someone like us who we do try to push buttons, we do try to push the envelope, now we're worried about censorship, and that sucks.
And that's part of the reason why we're also just diversifying where we put stuff. That's why we're moving into podcasting, moving into Facebook, moving into Instagram, doing television projects, trying to go into book publishing. We just don't want to be beholden to one platform that, again, at the whim of an algorithm change, the business falls apart, because we are really, really focused on making really high quality stuff. And it's unfortunate that, again, if the algorithm prefers to favor, a quick recipe or a quick tip or a vlog over educational content from one day to the next, we're out. And that's risky.
And it's also sometimes our videos take sometimes months to make. Like we recently released a video on Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which is a great anime. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but I wanted to do it justice. I knew it had a very, very fervent fan base, and I wanted to make sure that, we were doing, that I watched all 64 episodes, took meticulous notes, dove deep into various philosophers to make sure that I'm getting the correct, or optimizing the connection and making the, educational lesson as insightful, but also as complementary to the anime as possible. And that takes me a month and a half to execute on. And right now, recently there was an algorithm change that favors, 3 uploads a week or something like that. So for people like us who, take great pride and want to make premium content that takes time, then, if Google all of a sudden decides that, that's not what we want YouTube to be. We want YouTube just to be a vlogger platform, a quick new thing, then, we're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It does tell you something that the first thing that kind of a YouTuber does when they make it big is diversify. Move into podcasting, move into merch, books, all that stuff that can survive past YouTube for way. Because I do think that's, it is scary having one overarching, entity over deciding whether you're going to make money next month.
This was something we talked about with Todd, who's another member of your team at VidCon, of the kind of the differences between being a brand on YouTube, and I think you would identify a bit more as a brand than a singular person. And there's so many channels on YouTube that completely rely on, say, I hate the word, but an influencer who runs the entire thing, and that sometimes doesn't last all that long. Influencers come and go, but brands tend to last a bit longer. Do you feel the same way, or?
Yeah, I mean, we the name of your show is what, Showmakers. We looked at ourselves early on as like digital showrunners, as people who were, the show, and we've actually recently become good friends with a really great showrunner named Ed Decter. He was the writer of There's Something About Mary, nice guy. It's been super helpful. We spoke to his class at AFI, at the Film Institute here, and he was saying to us that being a showrunner means that you're not only coming up with the concept and the story and the characters, but you're also looking out to the market and saying where is there a gap, and how is this show going to fill that gap, and what networks are looking for the kind of stuff that I'm making. And you're sort of marrying the marketplace with the ideas, with the writers, with the concepts, and you're the one leading the ship. And Jared and I looked at ourselves as that kind of role when we looked out creating things like Thug Notes, or creating 8-Bit Philosophy, or Earthling Cinema, or the other shows we've created. And we definitely wanted to be behind the camera. We preferred, again, I think Jared being a filmmaker, I wanted to come into the entertainment industry also as more of a producer to create these multiple shows, formats, ideas all around a brand, all around a mission and a vision. And, Jared and I are still debating today, as we've created more and more shows, and they're all a bit different, and we also want to go do new things, like what does the brand even mean, and what does it represent, and where does it go, and how can it expand? And it's a living, breathing thing, but ultimately I think Jared and I we both really want to create a lot of interesting stuff and leave a mark, and create content with a message and leave that out into the world versus ourselves becoming personalities. I don't think. I mean, we're stepping into those roles a little more. I think Jared is also, is leading Wisecrack Edition and hosts and narrates that. He's leading and narrating our podcasting. He's certainly a very major voice in the business and a voice in the brand and for the content that we make. But ultimately, I think the brand is what we really care about.
And I never saw myself as that. I mean, really, I've stepped into that role out of necessity. But our initial efforts with the channel were to make shows. Thug Notes, has a character. Earthling Cinema has a character. Another disappointing. I don't know. It's not disappointing about YouTube, and I don't think this has anything to do with platform or the people at Google. But suspension of disbelief doesn't really work on the platform. Most people still think about it as a vlogger kind of platform. So, I have so many friends from film school who decide, okay, I'm going to make a narrative web series out of college, and that's going to, torpedo my career. And yeah, there are the Cinderella stories where that happens, like with Broad City and stuff like that. But in general, narrative content it's really hard for that to get discovered on YouTube. It's really hard for that to be shared on YouTube. So, yeah, I mean, like I've stepped into the role of narrator and personality just, as a way of, optimizing the medium. YouTube is as you said, influencer, cult of personality kind of medium. So I've stepped into that, but we're still maintaining the vision of the brand as something with shows, something with showmanship.
I think showmanship is the right answer. Yeah, because like even with Facebook, like it's not, as we think about creating formats or creating shows there, it might not be so much of a hosted show or a character or a narrative or a suspension of disbelief sort of premise, but rather the brand of the page, like the way a page is curated. Like look at Thug Kitchen has a very clear voice, where I fucking love science. It's a very clear sort of angle and take. And with that brand name and with whatever the voice becomes that page, they're able to curate content and create stuff. And so that's what's exciting is, Jared and I the other day were just looking at Instagram and looking at kind of how content and brands and pages are being created there and how information can be disseminated there versus YouTube versus Facebook versus any other platform. It's exciting. Like it is a moment of change. It is a very new opportunity for us to create, meaningful content on each of these platforms. I think that's a noble cause, and it's exciting. But yeah, how it manifests, how that kind of showmanship manifests on each platform is pretty different.
This episode of Showmakers was made possible by FreshBooks. FreshBooks is the ridiculously easy-to-use online accounting software designed to help creative entrepreneurs get organized, save time, and get paid faster. I'm usually more on the receiving end of invoices, but I can tell you that I love when freelancers I work with use FreshBooks. The online invoices are super easy to pay directly online, which means people get paid faster. FreshBooks also handles late payment reminders automatically, which removes the awkwardness of reminding someone to pay. FreshBooks also has some other great features, like it can automatically import and account for business expenses straight from your bank account, so you don't have to waste any time combing through statements and filling out spreadsheets. There's even more FreshBooks can do to help with your accounting, so to find out more and get a 1-month free trial with no credit card required, head over to freshbooks.com/showmakers. Once again, that's freshbooks.com/showmakers for 1 free month of FreshBooks accounting.
You seem to have essentially built a hybrid of a brand and kind of influencer type thing, which is something I haven't thought about before. It's pretty interesting that is something that you could do on YouTube.
I mean,
it's not easy. It's a little bit of an uphill battle because for example, Earthling Cinema took a long time to find its audience. I mean, we're so proud of it. The writer of Earthling Cinema, Ben Steiner, I'm just in love with his work, and I'm so grateful to have him on our team. But, even just the concept of Earthling Cinema, that there is an alien who is in the future who, is reviewing relics of movies. For YouTube, that's too many steps of thought. That's when you watch a YouTube video, you need to it's on and you immediately get the concept. You think Honest Trailer is just okay, I get it. A trailer, now we're just, putting this element of disillusionment to it, So Earthling Cinema was an uphill battle. And so even today when we're exploring, doing new shows, we're always asking ourselves oh man, I would love to do another Earthling Cinema. I would love to do another character-driven show, especially about music, which we're currently in development on a new show about music. And, it's kind of a push and pull because on one hand, we're no, this is what our fans love. This is what we love. We love to make shows. We love to make characters, and we should just do what's true to the brand. But on the other hand, we're but then on the other hand, YouTube is a platform that is optimized for a certain kind of format, and people have a certain amount of expectations. And, sometimes people's, attention span can be pretty low. So, it's just a constant push and pull. And so, we have a brand, and it's interesting how the identity of the brand will always find new challenges depending on the platform in which we're trying to establish it in. So, on Facebook, the Wisecrack brand is going to have to create different kinds of format that still applies under the umbrella of, smart, funny, subversive, informative, deep, whatever that we, call the brand. So yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, it's a very exciting space to work in because, in terms of Facebook, YouTube, digital media, the medium is still being defined. People are still, revolutionizing it every day. Things become popular that could never be popular on any other platform every day. So it's exciting.
Mm-hmm. And like Honest Trailers does a good job of taking something very familiar and poking fun at it or inverting it a bit. Being pretty irreverent toward the whole trailer kind of thing. And that's something that we sort of played with on Thug Notes, kind of Masterpiece Theater or Spark Notes, Cliff Notes, and anyway, what kind of I think to Jared's point about Earthling Cinema, like we created something entirely new. Like we weren't exactly poking fun at anything that already existed that anyone was familiar with, and we prefer to create stuff that's all new. That's kind of the best thing for an artist to be able to create, but at the same time, what the digital platforms allow is like, hey, there's something you already know. Now we're going to invert it, and we're gonna be subversive about that medium or about that format or about something that you already are familiar with. So that's again, it's a fun place to play in, but it can be obviously very infuriating too if you're also dealing with algorithms and how you reach your audience and how you actually get in front of or get surfaced when you've already kind of earned their trust, you've already earned their subscription, and yet you're still fighting. I mean, for us, moving into podcasting, moving into Facebook has been an exciting journey for us. We're moving into the next direction. And then lo and behold, there's an algorithm change. We have to kind of go back to the boat that we thought was already sailing, and we have to go fix a leak. And it's sort of unfortunate but that's just kind of the nature of all of this.
Yeah, but once again, I think that like no matter if we were in YouTube or if we were in cinema or television, that's always the case.
Right.
It's entertainment is entertainment, and it's a brutal business.
Have you learned anything from trying to go into Facebook? Because this is something I've been thinking about myself, but like it's not a monetizable platform as such unless you're like putting sponsorships and everything up there. But have you learned anything about like algorithms there, or how does it work?
Well,
I have no idea.
You can't be thinking about where the puck is. You got to be thinking about where the puck is going to be. Of course, Facebook is going to be monetized soon. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg runs a business that makes money, and he wants to make more money. So, like, yeah, we are trying to build Facebook right now because, once that happens, once the switch is turned, then we'll have like an audience to work with. So yeah, I mean, to me, I think it's an obvious. It's a matter of when. I mean, they're already testing it. It's just a matter of time.
And in terms of like the difference between Facebook and YouTube, Facebook seems to be much more forgiving in terms of what you're able to post, how frequently you can post, the types of things you can post, obviously. So on YouTube, it's really strictly video. They have a certain sort of quality. They want to have a certain amount of watch time. They want to have a certain kind of hit rate per video that's released to your subscription feed. Facebook, you can repost a post. Let's say last Halloween you posted a great video. You can repost that and share it again on Halloween of this year, and it still has the same kind of reach and potential that it had the first time it got posted. That sort of mechanism doesn't exist on YouTube. You can post a GIF, a meme, an image, an article. Again, that flexibility is great because you can kind of create more of a curated voice where the types of things that you're sharing, the types of things that you're posting can be just as reflective and can be building that same page brand just as much as a video. So that flexibility is nice. And then we've learned obviously kind of a lot of the mechanisms that I'm sure a lot of the listeners already know about, things like burning in subtitles and the square format and changing the titling. A lot of those pieces are interesting. Like we have a video, the Thug Notes video on Pride and Prejudice, I think has a little bit less than 1 million views on YouTube. We were able to package it up in a way that got people excited on Facebook. And this is a video that's already 3 years old or 4 years old, and it got 12 million views on Facebook just by the way we were able to position it. And of course, we kept testing different versions of the titling, but that was exciting. And the other piece that's kind of fun on Facebook, and it's also true on YouTube, is you can test things through the ad network. So you can actually buy ad space or buy promotions that only go to a limited number of people, but you can use that as a way of testing A/B split testing on titles or on thumbnails or on different cut versions. So you can actually test. Let's say you have 3 or 4 iterations of a post. You can test it through advertising, put $5 in or something, and see which one has a better click-through rate. And the one that wins, that's the one that you take public, and that's the one that can win. And so that's been very fun to test. We can do a little bit of it on YouTube with AdWords, but it's a little bit slower and more difficult. But the fact that Facebook has such a natural built-in paid mechanism into the platform, which YouTube does not have any of, aside from TrueView, that's exciting because that can be a testing mechanism. That's kind of a way of testing the market. It's fun.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that. That's getting me thinking.
But it's the combination of like content creation and the mastery of the platforms, the mastery of the data, the mastery of kind of how these mechanisms work. Like that combination is where, it's the new kind of savvy media company needs to be able to do both of those things.
Yeah, and just, repackage content that you upload on YouTube, put it on Facebook. I mean, we had a Rick and Morty video that we released probably like 6 or 7 months ago, and then we just released it on Facebook, and it got 2 million views. And it's just a really good way to continue to build your audience based on work that you've already done. You can find a whole new audience without with just kind of repackaging stuff that you've already done. And if a video didn't perform well on YouTube, then repackage it, put it on Facebook, and you can get a significant return. If it didn't pan out on YouTube.
And they appear to be pretty different audiences too. By the way, just sort of we have a much more kind of female-focused audience on Facebook, or at least more of a split on YouTube. We're like 85 or 90% male, and also just the people who are discovering Thug Notes on Facebook. None of them seem to know that we actually exist on YouTube as well.
Right.
So it's just we're trying to reach people where they are.
That's another problem that I cannot figure out completely with YouTube. I mean, it makes a little bit of sense with me. I have a 98% male viewing percentage. Like,
wow.
That's incredible. Like, and I know engineering is a very popular thing with men, but it's not 98%. There has to be something going on in the background there that's forcing more of the videos towards men, like with the algorithm and everything. It's interesting that Facebook, you're not seeing that to the same extent.
That's interesting. Yeah. No,
yeah. I can only speculate as to why, but that's interesting.
Do we know is Facebook?
It's interesting you say that because I thought that I was women repellent. So it's good to hear that someone else has very high high male audience.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty repelling to women in general. No, but this is across the board. This isn't just me or Sam. This is like even with the educational channels that are run by women are predominantly male viewership.
I think the only educational channel run by a man, at least, that has below 90% male split is Real Life Lore.
Oh, and we just want to collab with him, actually. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, talking about Facebook, one of the issues with Facebook is a copyright problem.
Yeah.
He has on one page over 50 million views across 3 or 4 videos that he's made no money on a Facebook page, and he's tried to.
They freebooted it.
They freebooted it. He's reached out to them. He's tried to get it taken down. He's reached out to Facebook. As not being a video platform, it seems Facebook has some real problems with, with copyright and the whole structure of being more professional. And part of that is the monetization issue. But in being more professional about content creation and just copyright.
Mm-hmm. And I have no idea what kind of determines the splits. I don't know if YouTube is, in terms of the splits of gender. It's sort of, I'm sure, kind of you get categorized from what we can tell is like if you've watched. Let's say you've watched one video on Rick and Morty, even if you've watched it for 10 seconds, now everything in your recommended feed will be either Rick and Morty content or something related to it. I did one very quick video on Dunkirk. I think I watched the trailer for a minute, and I didn't want to get spoilers, so maybe I turned it off. And then it was really everything that was surfaced was Dunkirk kind of content. And it could be categorizing educational content in that way. Like if you watched, I don't know, you watched a video game trailer, now all of a sudden you're being surfaced all of these other sort of media channels or education channels, and that's different from, say, beauty or food or lifestyle or something different. And I just don't know. It's interesting.
I also wonder if just YouTube in general is male dominated.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they ever released that.
I'm sure it is.
Well, I mean, there's so many things that are very much geared towards women. It can't be, I don't think it is male dominated. I think there's just some verticals on YouTube that for whatever reason it's like some sort of cycle thing that it just recommends it to men and women don't get to see it. Because I don't believe that only 2% of women would click on the video. I just don't think it's being
surfaced.
Yeah, like I just don't think it's been shown to them for them to click on it. Like that has to be it. But whether that's because historically those women just won't click on that, and that's why YouTube do it. Like there's so many different variables. You can't just say YouTube. It's like some conspiracy on YouTube's end.
Yeah, that's why we can think about it all the time, but who knows?
It's all speculation.
Right.
We try not to, drown ourselves in speculation because it's not going to go anywhere.
No, you kind of just have to focus on the content and
just try to make the best stuff you can.
Yeah.
So your guys' first show was Thug Notes, correct?
We had a show before, but
on the current channel, yeah.
On the current channel, yeah. Thug Notes.
Well, that's actually part of my question. How did Thug Notes Wisecrack as it is today come about? Because the major difference I'm seeing between like Brian and I and you guys is that we both launched with pretty much no budget. Me more on a whim than Brian, but whereas you guys launched with proper, professional filming, and an actor and multiple people. So how did that come about? How did that kind of strong launch come about?
Slave labor. I mean, it's basically, that's kind of one of the benefits of coming to Los Angeles and like having a bunch of friends in filmmaking is that, people with skills that are your friends and that are willing to do sound for free, are willing to, just be excited about being in a project. Short films are made all over this town, for little to no money because people just want to be part of something. It's also, there's like a matter of like kind of almost like a patronage system where like, everyone has their own projects they're working on. So if you help me with my project, then, if you run sound on my project for free, then, when your project comes up, I'll run sound for you for free. So, I mean,
it's actually beautiful.
It's a matter of being crafty. Like we had no money. I mean, like Jacob was paying out of pocket, and like each episode cost us like $50 or something like that. In terms of how Thug Notes started, I mean, basically I had the idea. I'd recently produced a pilot for W. Kamau Bell, who's now on CNN, but this was for a show that he was on FX for a while that was pretty short-lived. And I became close with his manager, and his manager his manager connected me with a writer named Kevin Avery, who currently writes on the John Oliver show. Or wait, is he still working on John Oliver?
He just left John Oliver, yeah.
He left John Oliver. Okay, so I emailed him, and he was a really nice guy. And I said, hey, I've got this idea, Thug Notes. Do you have any comedians in mind? And he introduced me to Greg, who is now Sparky Sweets. And Greg has an educational background. He used to do educational theater. Right now, he's like a special education aide. So, he's really passionate about education, and it was just a great fit because, he's into comedy. We both just kind of hit it off, and I explained the idea to him, and then we just went for it. And in terms of like the production, we had a camera, we had a friend that had lights. We just, asked him like, hey man, can you just do us a solid? The house that we shot originally for Thug Notes was my ex-girlfriend's best friend's house, just like someone who had a really, really nice library in a very nice part of Los Angeles. And her dad is like, the son of like Hollywood royalty. Like so this girl was my ex-girlfriend's best friend. Her grandfather was like the producer of like all these classic Hollywood TV shows like I Love Lucy, I Dream of Jeannie. So like there's like old Hollywood money there. And so like the father is, very excited about helping young talent. So even though I didn't know the family very well, they were just like, oh, I love seeing, these passionate upstarters. And we shot like the first 30 episodes in that house and for no money. They just love to help us,
Incredible.
And getting started as a filmmaker or as anything, requires that kind of hustle and that kind of schmooze and just making it work with nothing. And then like as far as the animations, like I edited every episode. Jacob did the animations for every episode. I mean, it was really just a super small team, no one getting paid.
Yeah. And now it's fun to like this crew that we had, they were out struggling, couldn't rub two pennies together. And now everyone's got a great career, and everyone, again, we've all helped each other kind of get to this place. And it's exciting, like looking back at movies. I was watching Boogie Nights the other weekend, maybe 2 weeks ago, and like just seeing all these guys, like they were probably, working for Boogie Nights for like nothing. I know that was a studio movie, but they were all just like young guys who wanted to be part of this, like Luis Guzman and John C. Reilly and all these guys. And now like they all kind of built this incredible career together. They all grew together. it's nice to hang out with the crew now and be like, wow, it was 5 years ago. Look what we've done. It's great.
But I remember Wisecrack from, I don't remember, I'm keep getting them confused. I remember Thug Notes from maybe episode 4 or 5. It seemed to at least take off to an extent pretty early, right?
Yeah, it was that was luck. And by the way, I think that anyone who succeeds on YouTube or in entertainment in general, part of it is luck, but especially on YouTube. But yeah, so we filmed 3 episodes. We always film multiple episodes on a shooting day. So we filmed 3 episodes, like the 3 piloting episodes. It was My Favorite Book, Crime and Punishment. Then we did The Great Gatsby and To Kill a Mockingbird. And the first 2, we uploaded them, no traction. And then we uploaded To Kill a Mockingbird. And some saint, I don't know who this person is, but I owe my life to him, posted on Reddit, and it got to the front page. It was on the front page for like 2 days, and that was the initial surge. And to this day, we're still building off that initial surge. Without that initial surge, there'd be no company.
Well, it just seems like every educational channel has the same story. It's always Reddit.
Reddit is so powerful. It's incredible. I mean, yeah. To this day, I mean, there are communities on there. Like when we create a great Rick and Morty video, it's within the Rick and Morty subreddit or within the Rick and Morty community that video hits and gains traction. Within the South Park community, within any of these philosophy community, when it goes broadly, when it goes general, when we for Thug Notes, it's kind of a broad general. I think it made it to the front page and it went maybe through videos or through I don't know what the subreddit was. But that community is very powerful for good and for bad. But
and they also seem the Reddit community also seems to appreciate smarter content more than vloggy type content, which is why it seems to be the story mostly for the people that we know, kind of in the educational space, which is it's quite unique since, as we talked about, YouTube isn't really built for this kind of content. Whereas Reddit sort of is.
That's a good point. Yeah, they surface like, hey, look at this. This is impressive. Someone put in the work to make this thing. This is worth checking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we owe our careers to Reddit.
Yep.
And in terms of Wisecrack, you asked the question, how did Wisecrack come about? Basically, YouTube education, actually the YouTube education team, there was an intern there who discovered Thug Notes and decided to bring us in to go meet the education team at the time, and someone who still works there, Angela Lynn, runs education with now someone named Malik, and I'm not sure. We became pretty close with Angela. She said, "We love what you're doing at Thug Notes. You're doing a very unusual, kind of unexpected way of talking about literature. What else do you guys plan to do?" And I think we just kind of made it up. We're just like, "Oh yeah, we want to do this for everything. We think we can do, smart stuff in a funny way for all sorts of stuff." And so that led to kind of the seed of the idea that turned into 8-Bit Philosophy and launching that. And then once we had those 2 shows, it was confusing because we had a Thug Notes channel with 8-Bit Philosophy on the channel, and then it just spent, I don't know, a month or 2 or 3 just hammering like, what's the name going to be? What is the name? And Wisecrack was a name that we'd picked early on, but we had brainstormed early on, but for some reason it just, I don't know, the crack thing didn't work, or I don't know, for whatever reason it didn't stick. And then the more we thought about it, I was like, oh, that really makes sense. And then the trademark had lapsed on a different project, and we're like, let's do that. Sounds like it's right. So anyway, that's the story.
So it seems like on both Reddit and YouTube, the 2 big things right now are Game of Thrones and Rick and Morty. And you guys are specifically tapping into the Rick and Morty crowd a lot with your videos and with your new podcast. Why do you think Rick and Morty is so loved on the internet, I guess, in general?
So Rick and Morty is, first of all, I think the show's new tagline I think is quite brilliant, which is only a show so smart could be so stupid. And I think that first of all, the show is very smart. I also think that the show taps into kind of something very essential about the zeitgeist of the times, and I actually mentioned this a little bit earlier with Honest Trailers, and that is the idea of disillusionment. I think disillusionment, this idea that we've grown up with a certain set of expectations, a certain set of ideals, and then we grow up, or whatever, the internet, or just kind of elevated self-awareness basically just shatters all of these ideas that were, marketed to us. And, like Rick and Morty definitely taps into the idea of like existential disillusionment, like every joke is about how life is meaningless or life is absurd. And, like that's the same reason that Honest Trailers is so popular, because it's like, so we're taking this idea of you're marketed a movie a certain way, it's presented to you a certain way, but, people get this sense of gratification when people point out that, hey, you've been lied to, that's all bullshit. Same thing with CinemaSins. It's this idea of like, a movie is constructed in a certain way to, to evoke a certain emotion from you. And now we're going to break it down and subject it to a level of literalism it was not built for, to the point where the illusion shatters. And people just really get off on that these days. And Rick and Morty, basically just takes that to a philosophical level. And I think that people really appreciate, first of all, obviously the show is freaking hilarious. It does a really precise, amazing job of balancing just pure silliness with actually some very thoughtful, plot lines and thoughtful philosophy behind it. So I think the show is just a home run.
This episode of Showmakers was made possible by Squarespace. Squarespace allows you to easily and quickly create a beautiful website or online store using their templates. It powers wendoverproductions.com, realeNgineering.net, and Showmakers.fm because it just works. If you ever have an issue, they also have award-winning customer service 24/7. Squarespace's all-in-one platform makes it so that there's nothing to install, patch, or upgrade ever. And by going to squarespace.com/showmakers, you can get 10% off your first order from Squarespace. Once again, that's squarespace.com/showmakers for 10% off your first order. And so what is it like? I mentioned that you have a new Rick and Morty based podcast called The Squanch.
That is correct.
Which is a bit of a reference to the show.
Yeah.
And so what is it? This is one of your first kind of new verticals, I guess. What is it like transitioning into the podcasting world and figuring out how to grow a podcast, how to monetize a podcast? Are there any difficulties you've come across?
Yeah. First of all, at Wisecrack, I definitely fancy myself first and foremost a writer. So the idea of doing stuff that isn't scripted and that's off the cuff is, a little uncomfortable for me initially. And so, I'm still learning how to do that. Our first episode had a lot of ums and knows, and I'm probably still talking like that right now, and I don't even realize it. So, yeah, we're still figuring out how to be authentic and how to, communicate in a non-scripted way. But other than that, in terms of the people that we have on the podcast, we've got a great rapport. We've been talking to each other for a while. We all love Rick and Morty, and I don't know. I think it's going pretty well. What do you think?
Yeah, we've done so we only have 2 episodes out right now. We released one last week. One came out last night. So definitely check it out. It's called The Squanch. You can find it on iTunes and everywhere you can get your podcasts. And we always are testing and trying new stuff out all the time. So we did 4 different kind of podcasting prototypes where we tested different people that we work with, different writers, different kind of just finding the right chemistry. And right now it's Jared and Alec also being one of the senior editors on the content side, Ryan, who's one of our actual video editors, who's awesome. And we wanted to get the balance of different personalities. Jared and Alec can definitely go there in terms of philosophy and kind of go very, very deep. Ryan helps bring it back down to earth for people as well.
He stops me before I start acting or sounding too douchey. Yeah.
So we're learning a lot, and it's awesome to have something so fast. In a way that, video, again, like Jared said, some videos can take up to a month. Sometimes, on average, probably more 2 weeks, but it's a lot of work. It takes a long time. And for us to be able to have a smart conversation, package it up, and get it out into the audience that fast has been really fun. And we're using YouTube, of course, as a way of getting people to get some exposure to the show. We're not even really thinking about monetizing it or any of those sorts of pieces right now. It's just let's just get it to be really good. Let's just really focus on how quickly we can do this, get the chemistry right, and keep practicing. And hopefully the fans like it, because I think it's super insightful. We can cover a certain amount of information in a 5 or 6 minute video, but we can do a lot more when you have time, 45 minutes to talk.
Are there any plans for the off season? Since I think the last took about a year and a half since between season 2 and season 3?
I think we can go back to we can start with season 1 and 2 and go back through each and every one of those maybe.
Well, we are calling it the Wisecrack podcast, and I think there will be other things to talk about once Rick and Morty ends, whether it be movies or other shows, maybe, Westworld, Mr. Robot, whatever movies coming out. I think we'll find stuff to talk about.
Yes, I'm not sure if we're going to change the name or if we're going to maybe just launch a bunch of different shows. So like that will go off season while the next podcast, like if we do one on Westworld or one on Game of Thrones.
I think
I don't
the
know.
Squanch is the perfect name for it because
Yeah.
Squanch means nothing. It's all about the context.
That's right, yeah.
Just squanch it. It'll be fine.
Today we're talking about the show called Squanch.
But I also want to say that I really want to see a Westworld one from you guys because the whole philosophy things approach seems perfect for that.
We did
haven't
a
watched
great
it.
philosophy of
Yeah, we did a
Westworld
video.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
We worked with
but
that.
seeing episode to episode analysis, I am fully behind that.
I think, that sounds like a good idea.
I still
That just
can't
means
tell
I'm
what
gonna
that
have to whip out I have to take notes while I'm watching these episodes.
Yeah, watching entertainment's not fun anymore. It's all work.
No, it is fun, but it's just like it's weird. Like now, when I consume good content, I always have to take notes. So in order to and that's essentially working. So the only relaxing content for me is like when I'm either hate watching or just watching something that's just a train wreck. I don't know.
Or
I guess
Epic Mealtime.
Epic Mealtime, yeah. I still watch.
Yeah, you don't take too copious notes there.
No.
So, like, with your research stage for a video, do you literally just watch a video and take notes on it, or do you go in with like a specific narrative that you want to tell?
So it depends on the properties. So first of all, let's take Full Metal Alchemist as an example. I had never seen Full Metal Alchemist, but there were some, we have like a bunch of contract writers, and we have like on Telegram, which is a messaging app, we have a thing called the Writers Room, which basically is just a chat room where all of our writers and all of our researchers, we can bounce ideas off of each other. And, so obviously it's always best if, I first say, hey, has anyone seen Full Metal Alchemist? And, someone will say, oh, yeah, I love that. And then I'll give them a call, and this person may be an academic. They may be, extremely well read, and they'll say like, yeah, I think there's such and such going on, and I think you can use this thinker. And that will kind of prime me to like, all right, this is kind of a lens that I should be looking at while I watch this. And, then usually what happens is like I hire a writer, and then who has seen the show, he writes a draft. As he's writing, I watch, I take meticulous notes, and then that allows me to, when I get the first draft, to reorient the script or to give meticulous notes about like, I think we should include this, we should include this. And yeah, sometimes the research can take a really long time, but, like, I think one of the smartest things we've done is we've just built a network of very smart, very well-read people. So it's really not just me going to the library, pouring through random books, trying to find something that fits within Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's, like, hey, I've got resources of people who are really well-read, and they can point me in a direction.
And they like pop culture.
They love pop culture.
Which is that's the mix of people we're looking for. So if there's anyone listening out there who's a scholar, who fashions himself as a scholar or a researcher, or someone who loves the academic topics, but also loves pop culture. Like, it's just we've got a really cool team of people. We've got like 12 or 15 writers and researchers who are just awesome.
I love them all.
And you've got a dog running around your office, which is pretty cool.
We do. That's my dog Woody.
The bear.
He's a baby bear. He keeps morale high.
Going to say, it was really cool going to, like, when I was in LA, I got to go to the Sam and Nico, the Corridor Digital office, and then I went to yours on my final day there. But your office was cool for the fact that people were just kind of around talking and watching shows and stuff to write episodes. It's like, this seems like a pretty sweet deal of a job.
Yeah, we've got some interns. I think when you were there, it's so funny. Like, so for the Full Metal Alchemist episode, like we had just done a One Punch Man episode, and people were complaining that we used the dubs instead of the subs. And so I was like, all right, so Full Metal Alchemist, we're doing this right. And I made one of our interns, who was very happy to do it. I made him look at every translation of Full Metal Alchemist and make a graph of like, which translations, sell our point the best. And then like I made him manually transcribe all the quotes that we used. Just because I wanted to make sure that we got it 100% right. And then and this is a side note, but then of course when we uploaded the video, people complained that, oh, you guys should have used the dubs. So there's just no winning. But yeah, I think our interns and people who work here have a lot of fun because, they get to engage with stuff they love and hopefully learn lessons about it, and kind of question their world more. And that's kind of what we're all about.
And how do you go about actually finding writers? Especially like so much of it is around philosophy and everything else. Because I think this is probably the roadblock for expanding on videos generally is finding good writers that can create like really interesting content that isn't boring, especially when like it's easy to make things boring.
Yeah. We've actually had a lot of success on Craigslist. Craigslist is, it's just the thing that keeps on giving.
And someone mentioned that the LA Craigslist particularly is like really, really good. Because think about how much talent there is in the city. So many people move out here to go do great work, and it's all about finding the gig. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Alec, who runs our content team, he did a whole call out for great writers, is run through that process of talking to everybody, putting them through a test. It's a lot of work, but it is. Yeah. But there are definitely great people out there.
Also, I mean, personal recommendations are also the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, that's how we found Greg. That's how we found a lot of our writers. Just even if it's a Facebook post saying here's what we're looking for, and people might have friends of friends, or actually a lot of people reach out to us. People say like, I stumbled upon your channel. I think it's great. I think I'd be a great asset to you guys. And then I'll set up a call. Actually, we have one today. And, a lot of times these are people that are like, have been research assistants for years, but they're just bored at their university job and they love pop culture and they want to get involved. And so sometimes the help comes to us.
That's been basically how I'm only really working with one person at the moment. But yeah, met him on YouTube, saw that he was a really good animator, found out he was an engineer too. I was like, oh, well, that's convenient.
That's a perfect it's a great combo.
It's a unicorn.
Mm-hmm. Unicorns don't exist too much in this industry, though, for engineering.
They're really hard. They're really hard to find. Oh yeah, engineering and filmmaking. That's oof. Yeah, that sounds rough.
And engineering and not being an incredibly boring person. Like this, it's so easy to make this content boring. It's like the main problem I think I'd find with finding another writer is just framing it in a way that isn't boring.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've asked this to a couple of our LA-based guests, but what's the advantage for you guys to being in LA rather than New York or London or any of the other big places of specifically educational filmmaking?
I think that, we fancy ourselves a bit more of a hybrid necessarily than just education. I mean, for education, if you were strictly just an education channel, I can see why, there maybe wouldn't be necessarily as much of a benefit. But because we are filmmakers and, we also have shows and we kind of fancy ourselves as entertainers as well, there's so many benefits of being in LA. And first of all, the talent is here. Greg lives here. Mark Schroeder, who plays Garrick Wormuloid on Earthling Cinema, he lives here. A lot of talented writers live here. It's also so important that if, someone reaches out to you, whether it's an agent, whether it's like a TV company who wants to, license your content, it makes all the difference in the world if you meet them face to face. It just makes the situation much more real. Someone is going to take you much more seriously if you're just looking them in the eye. It makes the situation real, So like, you can Skype a, producer at Showtime or something like that, and, they would just maybe forget about you. Whereas if you like go to their office, sit down, they know you're serious, you can establish yourself as, someone who is serious. And I mean, I know it seems a bit elementary, but just being here where the money is, where the action is, where the talent is so important. But then again, so important. But then again, for education, if you're just doing strictly education, I can see why, that wouldn't necessarily matter as much.
And look, we do have we work with like I just counted the other day, it's like 75 or 100 different people that like animators, writers, researchers, editors. We've got a big extended team that are all over the place. But in LA, when we're looking for new editors, new animators, directors, everyone happens to be here in LA. For the most part, it really is easy to kind of, again, throw out a call for those sorts of folks. Everyone's here locally. They can come over to the office. They can meet the dogs. They can see the team. It's just here. If we need to looking for comedians, we can go to UCB. We can go to Groundlings and go find the talent and go see what they're up to and see what they're creating. For on the creative side, on the filmmaking and entertainment side, like
it also just like as
here.
shallow as this sounds, people just take you seriously if you're in LA.
guess you're crazy enough to move out here.
Yeah, like, I found that was one of the interesting things of being out there. Of it felt like I kind of belonged there. Like, you tell people in Ireland that you make YouTube videos and they look at you like you have a third eye. But you, like, in LA, people get it. People understand that it's not actually a thing.
People are leaving their jobs in traditional media in television to join digital media because they know that it's the future, and like I guess it's the wave is hitting here in LA first. People are starting to get it. I think it's going to take a while for people outside of LA to get it, but people are seeing the change. They're seeing that it's the place to be. It's where the puck is going to be.
And the city is exciting from the combination of technology and entertainment, like what's happening, that convergence of the two there is awesome here, because typically you'd had technology in cities like London or in cities like San Francisco and in the Bay Area. But tech is coming here. Like, I mean, again, Snapchat is having trouble right now, but what happened with tech there was interesting. And you had kind of the Silicon Beach combination with entertainment combined with now venture capital coming to town. So you have like this interesting, it's a very entrepreneurial city. You have people who are willing to take the risk to come out here before it used to be in film or television or I'm going to be an actor. But you have that risk, that sort of tolerance for risk combined with the technology and the entertainment, all of that coming together in one community. Now, again, the money's here too. It's a really interesting cradle for what's happening right now. And that makes it a really vibrant place to be working. And again, no matter where you go, there's creative people everywhere, and that's awesome.
Right. And, I don't think that like we would have been able to foster the relationship we have right now with Ben Steiner, who's the writer-creator of Earthling Cinema. He lives in L.A. He writes for, what's that show? The League. He writes for The League sometimes. And, it's just great to have that kind of caliber of writer working on a YouTube channel. And I don't think you'd be able to attract that kind of talent or even just meet that kind of talent outside of LA.
Okay. I think we're at just about an hour there. So I think we can wrap it up there. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about before we sign off?
Yeah, I just want to pitch our Rick and Morty podcast again. It's called the Wisecrack Podcast, currently called The Squanch. It's on iTunes, SoundCloud. We are breaking down every episode of the new season of Rick and Morty. We just released last night our episode on Pickle Rick, which I think is it was an awesome episode of the show, and I think it's a good episode of the podcast as well. Also, of course, check out Wisecrack on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe.
We highly recommend it.
Yeah. Anything else, Jacob?
I think that's it. I mean, really, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I hope that we didn't bore. I hope we didn't bore you to death, because like I feel like we didn't talk about, like YouTube creator drama, and I feel like that's what people want to hear.
Yeah, what are your opinions on Jake Paul?
We have to have
I don't even know who that is.
Good.
Oh,
good. That's the way it should be. I goddamn hate this YouTube drama shit. Just ignore it and it'll go away.
We just try to keep our nose in books and just not give a shit.
We need to have some kayfabe ourselves. We need to have some beef, some YouTuber beef.
We need some.
We should create some with the education.
Do you guys want
war?
We'll have some beef with Hank.
Do you guys want to script like a beef between our channels to just kind of like like we pretend to hate each other and like create this big event? And then, like, that'll just drive subscribers, because there'll be some drama. You guys down for that?
Yeah, fuck Wendover.
No, seriously.
All right, cool.
Fuck 'em.
Yeah, right. Let's create some beef. We'll log into the Twitter account right now. We'll start to create some shit.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
It's good marketing.
People would have to only come to this podcast to know that it's all fake.
Well, I'm looking forward to my 10 million subscribers.